Hey, this is Aaron.
And Blake, we're AV Data.
Thanks for walking through this Alteryx Weekly challenge with us.
In this video, we're taking a look at Alteryx Weekly Challenge 203. Here we're doing an analysis based on toll booth data. So the main data set, the CSV, gives us a series of IDs for each plate ID with a series of time readings. Ultimately, we'll have to identify these as segments and then join it against the segment tolls data set to see how expensive each toll is. And then we'll aggregate those totals for each plate ID in addition to calculating the amount of time. So first we're going to transpose the data from a wide data set to a tall data set. And now we have a field called name that gives us time node 1. And we're really only interested in the one character on the far right side of this field, which is going to give us the segment ID. So here we're going to use the write function and just identify that one string.
There are 7 or 8 different ways that you could do that as well. So don't worry if it's not how you chose to do it.
Absolutely. We could use regex, text to columns, but in this case we just decided to use the write function. And because we're going to use a time calculation later, we want to make sure that these values, which are actually timestamps, are thought of in the Alteryx military time format. So we're going to pad it to 8 total characters and putting a leading 0 in front in the event that it's a single digit time. Now, there are some null values in this value field that we don't need to worry about anymore. So we can drop in a filter and tell Alteryx that when value is not null, we want to drop those records off. So this leaves us with the sequence of data points that we need to identify our segments. And we're going to pull the segment number from the record above while grouping based on the record ID. And here we're creating a structure that will be identical to what's in our lookup table. So here we're going to start with the segment ID, which is currently in the field called name, and then a comma, and then the name in the current row. And this is a string that we're creating, so the default of creating an integer data type is not going to work for us. But here, once we convert this to a v-string, we see that the segments, assuming it's not the very first item for each of the IDs, will actually give us that pair, which we can join against the other data set. So copying and pasting the multi-row formula tool, we're going to create a secondary new field called time, start time rather, and again grouping by the ID, we're going to pull down the value from up above, which is going to give us the start time for that segment. And assuming the field size is large enough to fit all those characters, so here updating from 4 to 8, we can fit all 8 of those items. And now we have our start time created. So quickly looking at the lookup table, segment tolls, we see that that field called segment is really what we're interested in. So we're going to join the left and right based on that segment and map in the toll from the right-hand side. So this will give us the numeric value of what each segment of that toll cost that particular ID, which is of course associated by the plate ID that we'll ultimately summarize by. And the last piece of logic we need to drop in before summarizing is calculating the amount of time that's elapsed. So here we'll use the datetime diff function, and we'll start with value, which is really the ending time for that particular record. Then reference the start time, and then the U, or units, here we'll specify we're interested in the number of minutes. And making it a numeric data type will allow us to aggregate those values. Now that we've calculated the toll amount and the amount of time for each of the segments, we're going to group by the plate ID and then sum each of those last 2 fields to get the totals for each of our license plates. All right, so taking a look at the result, we have 939 records where the toll values match.
Thank you for learning with us today. Good luck on your Alteryx journey.
For more information on custom training, managed service automations, and more, please visit our website at abdataconsulting.com.